Hello and welcome to our 6 p.m. newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's start with the headlines. The president and rival party leaders sit down for talks on pressing reforms, the ongoing inter-Korean family reunions, and the government plan for new history textbooks. The first round of family reunions wraps up today. An emotional climax is reached as Korea's war-separated families bid one another farewell, possibly for the last time. A drop in sales in China and other emerging markets drives down the third quarter net profits of Korea's biggest conglomerates, Hyundai Motor and Samsung Engineering, sounding alarms for companies in related fields. Let's start with a rare meeting between President Park Geun-hye and the leaders of Korea's rival political parties. She wants to debrief them on the results of a recent trip to the U.S. and seek their support. The atmosphere is likely to be frosty, though, with the main opposition expected to protest the administration's decision to retake control of the nation's history education. We connect to our presidential office correspondent Hwang Sung-hee, who is on the line. Sung-hee, are the talks over yet?
Yes, Daniel, the talks ended a little over an hour ago. Now, ahead of the meeting, the presidential office of Cheong Wa Dae said that today's meeting will be an opportunity to put all pending issues on the table and narrow differences. This is the first meeting between the president and the party leaders at the presidential office in 7 months. Now, the reporters here at the presidential office were just briefed on today's meeting, and there seems to have been a conflict between the president and the main opposition party. President Park debriefed them on the outcome of our recent trip to Washington and called for the swift passage of bills related to labor reform and economic revitalization. Now, this while the opposition party brought up the sticky issue of the government decision to reintroduce state-issued history textbooks for secondary schools. The presidential office said that while all parties agreed on the importance of correct history education, they had different opinions when it came to government-authored textbooks. President Park expressed disappointment about the issue being turned into political conflict. I'll have more details for you in our later newscast. Daniel?
All right, thank you for those updates, Sung-hee. Moving on to the last day of family reunions, which took place at the Mount Kumgang Resort in North Korea. The first group of war-separated families has said their goodbyes on the third and final day of the first stage of the reunion event. Connie Kim has more on this emotion-charged day.
It's yet another heartbreaking goodbye. Eyes are filled with tears and hands are tightly held as families hold on to their final moments before being separated again, possibly forever. This is probably the last time Lee Jong-suk will see her father. She whispers something she's always had in her heart, but has been unable to say for so long. For everyone, it's a dream come true, but one that was far too short. It's an emotional time, a time they will remember forever. Afraid of not being able to say everything on the last day, one man had written his father a letter several pages long. In their final session, family pictures were taken for the first time in more than 60 years. Family trees were reconstructed, and some families exchanged promise rings as mementos of their time together. For these families, every minute must have felt like a second, and all too soon, an announcement tells them the time they've been wanting to avoid has finally come.
아쉽지만 10분 후에 작별 상봉을 마칠 예정입니다.
On the buses ready to depart, the families reach out for one another, trying to hold on until the last possible moment.
건강해야 돼. 될 때까지 계셔야 돼. 알았죠? 사랑해. 하여튼 건강하세요. 네, 그래야 또 만날 수 있으니까 건강하셔야 돼요.
As they say their last goodbyes, there are cries of sorrow as the families don't know when or if this will be their last embrace. As the buses move away, it's too hard to bear for many, and some are unable to speak. So far, 19,000 Koreans have been reunited with one another. But given the timing, it's estimated that the majority of separated family members will have passed away within the next 25 years. So for everyone to be reunited with their loved ones, at least 6,000 people must meet every year. That's led to growing calls for the reunions to be held on a regular basis beyond the politics of the two Koreas. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Let's shift our attention to corporate earnings reports now. Korea's top automaker Hyundai Motor saw its operating profit fall to a 5-year low in the third quarter. The automaker reported an operating income of $1.3 billion in the July to September period, falling almost 9% from the year before. Its net profit dipped more than 25%. The company attributed the losses to the weakness of currencies in emerging markets and the euro, which canceled out the rise in the value of the Korean won against the U.S. dollar. Things weren't looking any better in the construction sector either, with Samsung Engineering posting an operating loss of $1.3 billion in the third quarter. It recorded a net loss of $1.1 billion, as well as an over 60% decline in sales. The construction company cited delays on projects in the Middle East as a reason for the losses. Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, Korea's second largest shipbuilder, is expected to post an operating loss of over $4.6 billion this year. The shipbuilder had already posted an operating loss of $2.6 billion in the second quarter alone. The losses come from order cancellations as well as a rise in the cost of building ships. The company's debt ratio is also expected to top 4,000% by the end of the year. The government is expected to draw up a rescue plan for the company, which will likely include the injection of additional funds from creditors. Shipments of TV panels are on the rise despite uncertainties in the global television market. According to Taiwanese display market watcher Witt's View, the combined volume of TV panel shipments by the world's top suppliers topped 182 million units in the first 3 quarters of the year. Experts predict that figure will surpass 242 million by the end of the year, a 7.6% rise from the year before. Korea's LG Display took the top spot in panel shipments, followed by Taiwan's Innolux and Samsung Display. Witt's View attributes the rise in shipments to recovering demands from TV manufacturers. Samsung Group Chair Lee Geun-hye is giving away 20 billion won, or $17.5 million of his personal assets to young Koreans. According to Samsung Group on Thursday, the chairman and top executives of group affiliates, including Samsung Electronics Vice Chair Lee Jae-yong, will donate roughly $4.3 million to the Youth Hope Fund. The government-launched foundation is dedicated to creating jobs for young Koreans with the goal of tackling the country's youth unemployment rate. The donation comes as the bedridden entrepreneur had been emphasizing the importance of cultivating young talent. With the contribution, the foundation has collected over $30 million since it was launched in mid-September. Many members of Seoul's senior citizens live in poverty and are seeking employment. But a special event held today at an unconventional location in central Seoul could help them find what they're looking for. Lee Soo-hun was there and brings us this report.
It's a beautiful autumn day here at Jogesa in central Seoul, which is filled with the scent of these colorful flowers. But it's no ordinary day for the Buddhist temple, which today is hosting a job fair. At this biannual event, co-hosted by Jogesa Temple and Jongno-gu District Office, participants were able to have an interview and get free headshots for their resumes. There was also another bonus, job counseling from one of the monks at the temple.
Jogesa is a comfortable space open 24 hours for the people of Seoul. Anyone can easily stop by for employment advice.
Because it's such an open event, and Jongno-gu is the district with the highest proportion of senior citizens in the city, most of the participants at today's fair were older job seekers.
I have to work, even if it's just a little. I have the strength, so I'm here to get advice on searching for a job.
In Korea, 47% of the elderly population lives in poverty, and that's 4 times the OECD average.
Elderly poverty is a national problem that a small regional office can't solve alone. But if we can find work for even one more elderly person, it will make a difference.
As Korea's senior citizens struggle to make a living, more open job fairs like today's could help them gain the knowledge they need to make the most of their search efforts and maybe even land a job. Lee Soo-in, Arirang News.
South Korea is the world's fifth largest nuclear energy powerhouse, and it's becoming increasingly dependent on atomic energy naturally. But that has also raised safety concerns with growing calls for greater cooperation on the regional front. Hwang Sung-hee has this report.
How do Koreans feel about nuclear energy and the safety of the country's reactors?
Nothing has happened so far. I feel safe.
I'm not that interested in the issue. I believe the country deals with it safely.
I feel a bit uneasy. I've read about the frequent malfunctions at nuclear reactors in a lot of articles.
I'm worried because of the accident in Japan. Korea has enough nuclear reactors, and I don't think we need more.
The public is divided, but what can't be denied is that Korea is the fifth largest nuclear energy powerhouse in the world, and the country has more nuclear power plants in the works. The same goes for China.
The International Atomic Energy Agency predicts that the number of nuclear reactors in the world will have expanded by 60% by 2040 compared to 2013.
While Japan shut down all but one of its reactors after the Fukushima disaster, and many Western countries are shuttering plants as well, the demand for nuclear energy in Northeast Asia is growing, largely for economic and environmental reasons. That was the point emphasized at the International Forum on Northeast Asia Nuclear Safety Cooperation on Thursday, but also
more and more we need to push for better strengthening our international cooperation.
Accidents can happen, but the correct prevention and response to nuclear accidents is so critical that experts say simply sharing information on safety regulations is not enough. There has to be intervention too.
A good example of this kind of intervention is how European countries began monitoring each other's nuclear plants after the Fukushima disaster.
Considering the geographical proximity of Korea, China and Japan, I think we should raise safety levels to a place where each country is confident about the others.
And that's what experts from the three countries are aiming for, saying there are no borders when it comes to nuclear safety. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
U.S. Vice President Joe Biden has made the long-anticipated announcement, but he will not be running for the Democratic nomination to become president. In a heartfelt address, he said after grieving the loss of his son this year, he does not have enough time to mount an effective challenge. Kwon Jang-ho has the details.
Flanked by his wife Jill and U.S. President Barack Obama, Vice President Joe Biden announced Wednesday that he will not be running for president.
Unfortunately, I believe we're out of time, the time necessary to mount a winning campaign for the nomination. But while I will not be a candidate, I will not be silent. I intend to speak out clearly and forcefully, to influence as much as I can where we stand as a party and where we need to go as a nation.
Many Democrats had hoped he would offer a strong alternative for the Democratic nomination, but his decision not to mount a campaign has now essentially left it as a two-horse race between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Meanwhile, on the Republican front, the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus is helping pave the way for Paul Ryan to become Speaker of the House by voting to back the Wisconsin congressman. In a controversial address on Tuesday, Ryan had declared his reluctance to take the demanding position, saying he would only do it if he received the support of all groups within the House Republican Conference. He also laid out a further list of requirements that would have to be met.
I cannot and I will not give up my family time. I may not be on the road as often as previous speakers, but I pledge to try and make up for it with more time communicating our vision, our message.
It seems House Republicans are now willing to give in to his demands when they vote on the matter next week. Now, all Ryan has to do is run. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
K-pop and TV dramas are quickly gaining fans around the world, and South American countries are no exception. Hwang Ji-hye files this report from Venezuela.
As Korean idol group M-Black, the first to visit Venezuela, arrives at the airport, it's chaos. Some fans tear up, others scream in excitement.
I saw a video in the YouTube most viewed videos from Big Bang, and I got clinged by K-pop and started to research another K-pop groups. And the moment I saw M-Black, I fall in love.
And she's not alone. Thousands have gathered here at the Teresa Carreño Theater to take part in a Korean pop music festival. What's more surprising, it's organized by the K-pop fans themselves with the help of the Korean embassy in Venezuela.
We started this annual event in 2010, and back then only around 100 people came to the festival. But now we have over 2,500 audiences.
Officials here say the love toward Korean singers is a continent-wide phenomenon.
K-pop bands has been having a lot of influence, not only in Venezuela, but in other countries of South America. And Venezuela is not an exception.
No wonder South America is a market with as much potential as Asian countries for Korean artists.
We're leaving to Peru right after our performance in Venezuela. We are sure that the fans there will be very supportive, so we'll do our best.
And it's not just pop music. The cultural wave is spreading to Korea's food and fashion, an indication K-wave fever will not end anytime soon.
I love the language. I would like to learn it. The food. I love bibimbap. I love it. And kimchi also. I would like to dress someday with the traditional dress. I would love that. And also, I would like to marry a Korean guy.
Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News, Caracas.
And that's all from us for now. As always, thank you for watching.